Yeah, hang out here a second. Let somebody get in here. Oh, hell. It's another day. Yes, it is. Anyhow, nobody shows up in a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and go. Because it'll be archived anyhow. But let's talk a little bit about labeling and categories. Yeah, labeling and categories that we've seemed to place ourselves into in our society or that we've allowed to happen. That's really what that comes down to. We've actually allowed it to happen. And unfortunately, all this does is stir up division, anger people, and goes right into the agenda of divide and conquer, of a group of people getting their wants to control an entire society, to control millions of people. That's really what it comes down to. So, regardless of what people think when it says labeling and categories, let's look at the reality. When we grew up and we went to school, okay, we had categories, didn't we? We had the division that divided the genders, which was a category. She's a female, he's a male. So we had a boys and girls bathroom. That's right. And we had a situation where it just recently a little bit started out. Okay, then as you go, you get a little older because you started when you were young, okay? And when you were really young and you went to preschool or kindergarten, you really didn't know too much about the world, only what your home life brought you. And you went to school, and based on how your voice sounds, based on how you look, based on how you talk, and based on the stuff they put in front of you, how well you program, we started making categories for each other, didn't we? That's right. Kids that were slow were mocked, called names, called retards. Okay, that's right. Was made fun of, cut down, bullied, picked on. Kids that talked differently than other kids or didn't think with groupthink were mocked, called names, and picked on. And then we started coming up with names, geeks. Yeah, labeling. We give them geeks. We give them nerds. Okay, loser. This is a really popular one in today's society. Mostly directed at men and mostly directed by women to men. But we do have other men calling other men losers too. So that's another name, another label. Okay, then you have Hollywood, who contributed to this and gave the Elephant Man, made movies based on the nerd or the geek, the outcast in the classroom. You've heard of the classroom clown, okay? So we've been doing labeling all your whole life. And really, this is what it is. That's why I call it categories and labeling, because of human beings, because that's what we've done. As humans, somebody tends to always want to fit in with other people. And people tend to look at the person who don't want to fit in, that don't think with their brain, as an outcast or somebody that's strange or there's something wrong with them when there's not. In most cases, there's not. So we'll start ridiculing them and bullying them and picking on them because they don't fit into what we thought they should fit into. They don't act the way we think they should act. And the list just goes on and on and on. And then you get older and puberty hits and you start looking sexually at your opposite gender. In some cases, at the same gender, huh? And in today's society, I don't even want to go there, man. I don't even want to go there. It's so fouled up, okay? But commonly, you'd be looking at your opposite gender, okay? And now we've even created categories for that. We sure have. We got a categories in the sexual market. Yeah, that's right. We turned it into a market, a grocery store. That's right, a supermarket, And we've labeled each other's as pieces of meat. That's really what we've done. And if it's a one, it's the meat that's discoloring, that's on sale, it's cheap, it's dirt, let's just get rid of it. Sometimes it's thrown away. That's right. That's throwaway meat. But you're human. Then we move up to category 2 in the sexual market. That's still throwaway meat. Then we go to 3. It's a little bit better. We'll put it on sale for this dirt cheap price to get rid of it. Somebody might buy it, or we'll throw it. Then we go up to 4. Basically almost the same thing. But we can just drop the price a little bit on that. We might sell it. Then we'll get up to 5, and that's the average meat that you picked out on your shelf of the store, of the grocery store. But we're using these categories on each other. And we've even went as far as calling it our sexual value on the market. Do you follow where I'm going here? Your sexual value on the market. It shows how skewed and how screwed up our society really is. It shows that the mindset of people are completely gone, fried, adios, right on down the road with the social engineering on that one. Okay? It's like when you say, oh, well, it's your fault you can't get a woman because you're trying to date outside your league. As if somehow this person that you've placed in a category, let's just jump up from 5 to 10. She's a 10. You're trying to date outside your league because you're a 5 or a 6. You're not allowed to approach her because she's a 10. She's only meant for another guy that's a 9 or a 10. Most likely a 10. Yeah. Who's decided this? Oh, some sick, twisted individual whose brains are fried. And you know what's even more pathetic about our labeling and categories that we're placing each other in? Nobody wants to be placed in the lower categories. Everybody wants to be an 8, a 9, or a 10. Everybody. That's right. Doesn't matter what they look like. Doesn't matter what their gender is. Everybody wants to be in that category. And so many of you aren't in that category to begin with, so therefore you're that generic meat. Maybe that's soy meat, right? Maybe you're the leftover scraps from when the butcher was cutting the meat up that we turned into hot dogs. That generic 99-cent for 10 hot dog pack? Yeah, and you wonder, why am I saying this about human beings? Because this is what you have dropped yourselves to be in. Rather than being a human being, you have started labeling each other as meat on the shelf. Your sexual value in the market. Give me a break. I'm sorry, but our society is totally gone. Totally gone. The powers to be at the top of the pyramid have done such an excellent job. Such an excellent, excellent job at brainwashing our society and changing people's perceptions through information. And unfortunately, they're conditioning people so well, they're going to go right on down that rabbit hole. And even David Icke, when I watch different people that speak out, and I've done a whole lot of research in my life in the last 12 years or so. I've done so much research. And I can tell you this without knowing who a lot of these people are, I have came to the same conclusion as Mark Passio in a lot of things, as David Icke in a lot of things, without even knowing who they are, just from my own research. I'm not sure who this is. Would I like to join them? Series for live chat in a week or so. Well, I'll tell you what. After this live stream goes up, if you drop me a link, I can remove it afterwards. Unless you want to drop it now for an email. Okay, and I'll email you and we can go from there. How's that? I can always remove your email from this chat after you put it in, unless you want me to put mine in. Because I really don't care. I can give you mine. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I really don't mind. I mean, I can give you mine. I'll give you mine now. Use that there email and you'll be able to get hold of me. Just make sure you put in the subject line from MGTOW or from YouTube or, you know, just something to grab my attention. So I realize it's an email I need to look at because, like anybody else, I get a lot of junk mail. So, but anyhow, back to what I was talking about here. I've done so much research over the years and I've had quite an eye opener, an awareness of what's really going on in our world and where our problems in the manosphere came from, and so much more than that in society. And so, and because of my research, I've actually, or I listened to somebody like Mark Passio. The man reminds me of myself in a lot of ways. I'm not him, and no means am I claiming to be him. He just reminds me of myself. And I listen to people like Alan Watts, okay, David Icke. And the research that I've done seems to be take me to the same place they are. And when I open my eyes and pay attention to what's going on in our world, and I sit back and I just watch, then you realize that, wow, how true so much of this is, and how it's not a conspiracy theorist, the magic word to cover up truth. And censorship is off the rails now because it is about shutting you up and only allowing one thought process for people's brains. They don't want people seeing or knowing, as they slowly eliminate your rights to free speech and take more and more away from you. But we are so deluded here in the manosphere Okay, we are so deluded. And I gave the name of this live stream, okay, labeling, and categories and labeling of human beings. Because throughout our society, whether you're in the manosphere or you're not in the manosphere, this has become a thing in our society that you went to school as a child and you was placed into categories and you was labeled by other students upon how well you did your work in school, which is still brainwashing, to I would have to agree with David Icke on this, where he's categorized it to a stamp, a fine narrow line of a stamped thing that our knowledge is to be. And it's only be just enough to convince you that you were educated. It's only enough to get you through, but it's not to give you too much information because there's so much being withheld from all of us. And then, of course, the division, which is something I have fought against for so many years, is the division. Because the division crosses over to every form of thing, every single thing in our society, from races to genders to the job site to who has more of the tool money than somebody else. That's right. You know what used to be the neighbors had a competition years ago with each other. If this neighbor's lawn was better than mine, I was going to break my butt to improve my lawn to match theirs. If they had a better car than me, I went out and I had to just go out and get a car and try to up them, and everything was turned into a competition. Sports, entertainment, we call it, right? Football, basketball, baseball, tennis, hockey, bowling. There's so many different sports. Okay. Became another thing that was for division. You called it entertainment, but in reality, it wasn't entertainment. And because your entertainment, if you really pay attention, has started getting where people take it seriously. Think about the kids go out in school when they're young and they go on to this baseball team and they get their little league and they get their little league team going and they got their uniforms and they're out there playing their baseball and what do we got? We got parents to show up to watch it and we get parents that are getting hostile and angry and yelling at their kid and punishing and disciplining the kid if the kid don't do as well as the parents perceive their kid's supposed to do. You go to professional sports, you go to an arena, and you got two teams playing against each other. You have both sets of fans in this arena, and people have literally been sent to jail and to the hospital for attacking somebody who has done nothing to them that wore a jersey of their favorite team, and the other person over here that attacked them for no reason at all attacked them because they hated that team. So now they hated you, and you called this sport entertainment, did you? No, it was never for entertainment. That was the sales pitch. That was to sell it on to you and our society, and it worked. It was a great sales pitch. We sold sports, we built stadiums, and we divided people by the masses. Just like our genders, we divide you. We have this activity and that activity for girls, and we have this activity and that activity for boys. Now, I understand there's differences, but we have focused on the differences so bad that we have divided each other. And you wonder why there's so much problems. Then we have our school system and our history playing into black people playing into it, Hispanic people playing into it. You know, you got Hispanic people that come over from across the border who was taught in their school system that the Americans stole their land. Then you also have, but no, the Americans stole the Indians' land. And then you have the controversy of the Mexicans, the Spanish people saying no, it was our land, and the Indians saying no, it was our land. And it's us Americans, it's us white people that come over here and stole. Whose land was it that we stole? Don't you realize that was another great tactic they used in your school systems to create division? Yes. I was a young adult, about 20 years old, 19 actually, when we moved to from my hometown to another town in another state. And we moved into this trailer park. Never lived in a mobile home in my life. I came from a two-story house that was over 100 years old. And now we emptied this house into a three-bedroom mobile home, and we had, oh my God, we had to get rid of so much. Okay, so, okay, fine, here I am, I'm 19, gonna be 20 years old. And the first people I met at that time was my neighbors. Didn't know anybody. Found a job and was my neighbors, and they were around my age bracket and blah blah blah. And they were Spanish, and we got hanging out and talking. And of course, back in them days, I was asleep and I partied, and and I was living in TFL because I'd been rejected every time I approached a female. So, but I didn't let it bother me too much at that time in my life. I'm like 20 years old. I'm living TFL, but I don't know I'm living TFL because I didn't let it bother me. I went and found other things to do. And I hung around with these Hispanics and we went and did our thing. And then we partied a lot. We went and seen wrestling. I remember going down to Denver, Colorado, 13th and Champa, and watching Ken Pater and Saito wrestle. And at the back of the ticket was a Burger King, and a Burger King was a block away from the arena. Okay, and we would go over there afterwards and use that ticket to get a discount off the damn Whopper. Okay, and I'd been down to 13th and Champ in Denver several times to wrestling matches. And I don't know how many people was around back there that would remember Greg. Uh, let's see, Greg the Hammer Valentine, or remember Vern Gagne, or remember Buck Rock and Roll Zumhofe, or remember Mad Dog Vachon, or Crusher, or Jerry Blackwell, and on the list goes, right? And I was young and I was watching these wrestlers and stuff, and we'd go down there. And then the one day, my neighbor friends, we were hanging out and they got drunk, and suddenly the fight was on, and nobody said nothing. Nobody done nothing to them. You know why the fight was on? Well, because I was a white man, and they were in America, and they were Mexicans, and they know that us white men stole their land because their parents had told them so, because their parents came from Mexico. And so, because their parents had told them it was the white man that stole their land, and they were drunk at this point, the fight was on, and I was targeted because, and this is before I was awake to what was going on in society. So I was targeted all because something that they claim happened before my time, before their time, and I was attacked. Okay, based on I was a white man in America. And they were born in America, but their parents wasn't, and their parents said that we stole their land. Okay, so and when I think about that, and I think about the Indians and our story of Columbus and our story of the Indians, we stole the Indians' land. So then I'm like, so which is it? Did we steal the Indians' land, or did we steal the Spanish's land? Okay, so do you see that what they've done is they've created another division there? Just like the currency creates a division. So we have our categories. We have the real wealthy, we have the middle class, and we have us lower class, right? But the people at the top of the pyramid look down at us all, and we're lower than all of them. All of us, doesn't matter if you're middle class, so what, you're cattle. Matter of fact, people top pyramid want to do away with middle class. They don't want no middle class. No, they don't want a middle class. They want us the cattle and then them the gods. Yeah, them the gods. No, they're not gods, they're parasites. Okay, that's really what they are. But now I'm going to jump into my categories and labeling, and I want to come over here to the manosphere. Because we are using all these division tactics and the things that they've been fed to us. And we are pointing our fingers at each other and we are blaming each other. And people get upset with me because I'll talk about the political end because understanding the root cause to the problems in the manosphere is very, very crucial. And why is it so crucial to understand that, if you'd ask me? Well, when I can look around me and I can see the incels pointing their fingers at these guys, and I'm MGTOW men pointing their fingers at these guys, and TFLers pointing their fingers here, and people denying being a TFLer, okay, and you men's right activists pointing their fingers over here, and we're all pointing our fingers, and we're doing the blame game, and you got all this division, and you can't get nobody to stand together. You're only playing into your enemy's problem because this is problem, reaction, solution. The problem was deliberately created by the people at the top of the pyramid. Who is your real government? The people you call your government are nothing but pawns and puppets, patsies. They come and go. They come and go. They come and go. The people at the top of the pyramid are the people that runs every government on the face of this planet. They are the government. They are NWO. They literally control all the governments. And people don't understand that. They think that their president's their chief and leader when he's nothing more than a puppet, an actor. It's nothing more than a stage show. Most people don't even realize that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are cousins. Yeah, that's right, they're family. Okay, and unfortunately, it is the people at the top of the pyramid down that's created the problem in the manosphere by dividing the genders. They're the ones that gave you the feminist movement. They're the ones that, through baby steps through society, socially engineered through information from media, from books, from magazines, from your school system. They engineered the division between the genders. They worked on it a long time before the rise of the feminist movement. The feminist movement was problem, reaction, solution. Then the feminist movement, because we suppressed the victim woman down when that was no truth to that at all. Never was. She was never a victim. You want to know who the victims are? All of us, men and women alike. But it worked successfully and it created a whole lot more division, which is what they wanted. And it helped to break up the family unit. They've used many, many forms over the years to do it, from your music, from your public school system, to your movies, your sitcoms on TV, to love romance books women would read that'd be loaded with drama. Every form of information that we were receiving was directed towards a goal, another stepping stone in the progression of social engineering your society with this information from all corners to change your perception of your belief system to what they want it to be. Through doing so, it caused more conflict. This is how we got where we're at today. I'm trying to take a long, drawn-out thing and make it as short as possible for you, so that you could get little bit of an understanding of what's happened to us all. Okay? And this is where we came from with this, okay? They already knew the outcome was going to be so many men would not be able to get a woman in their life. They knew already, because that's why I held up a pen and I used it as a poll and told you that the social engineering, the programming, the information being fed to us through our public school systems, through our media, all forms, newspapers, TVs, movies, commercials, sitcoms, okay, the whole nine yards, through our music and our books and magazines, gave you programming. One side was programming towards men, the other side was programming towards women. That furtherly divided us and led us to where we're at. Now they knew the outcome was going to be this because it was in the plans. It was a long drawn out plan. So they had to give you problem, reaction, solution. Now they've created the problem. They wait for the reaction of the people. Then they give you a phony solution. The first phony solution offered to us was the pickup artist industry. Then they had to give you a relief valve. Men's Right Activists, MRA. That's right. That was why MRA came along. This is why you had Paul Elam. Okay? These were agents of this entity. They're lower agents, but they're not in the know of the very top of where it come from. They're in the know of what they're being paid to do. And this is what they do. This is how we got where we're at. They created the problem, waited for the reaction of the people, knew what the outcome was going to be because of the problem they created. And after you started getting more and more men that couldn't get nobody in their life, then they, after this, got to a certain number that they were seeing in society from their planning, they gave you the pickup artist industry and they gave you a relief valve called MRA. And as the years went by and they used their programs and they already got it engineered, you got more than one stage of feminism now, which progressively made it worse. So there's your categories again, right? You got more than one stage of feminism, which progressively made it worse, and taking the woman out of the house and putting her in the job place also contributed to the breakup of the family. And gave the state your children as you put them in daycare. Whether people want to believe it or not, that's exactly what's taking place. And then along came Barbarossa. Now, of course, I was here on scene before that. Okay, when all this stuff was taking place, I'd come up with TFL. Because, see, I couldn't get nobody in my life like so many guys. And I had witnessed myself and met so many people like me. Then my son's mother came into my life and I got to drop out of TFL for a few years, for several years. But I hadn't come up with the name yet. Then when things fell apart between her and I was back into what I lived all that time before that. And then I took a trip. I met a school teacher online in the Philippines. And I took a trip to the Philippines and met her. And on my way there, I met 5 other American guys from different parts of the countries, and their stories were identical to mine. For what I experienced clear up to the time that I met my son's mother, And after we was no longer together, it was the same story all over again. And then I met this school teacher online, but we didn't meet physical. She was over in the Philippines. So I was still living in TFL and just talking to her on a computer. Okay, what did that do? So I go to the Philippines to meet her, but I find 5 American men over there on the plane going to the Philippines that their stories were identical to mine. And I come back and I got thinking about everything I'd gone through when I was younger, after I met her, everything I've been going through now and their stories. And that's where I come up with the name of True Force Loneliness. And I wrote that down on paper. That's right. And then I started really digging into why I felt what I felt and what these guys had said they felt the same way. And I got 5 other men, not counting my friends along the way while I was living it, that were having the same problems. And so I'm thinking about them now. And it all just fell hand in hand. And then I got so damn frustrated with it. I was like, I got to find out why the hell this is happening. What is going on? And that's what brought me online. Okay, to start researching. Now, instead of using my computer for listening to music, going to a dating site and getting rejected over and over, not getting no hits. Nobody emailed me, right? You all know the spill. Because I know y'all been there, okay? And all the bullshit that we run into online. So now that just added to my fury, and so I started researching. And I researched and I researched and I ran into stuff I never planned on running into. And then I would look at it and no, that's nuts. No, that's completely crazy. That can't be. That was my thought frame, just like so many other people want to say you're nuts, you're conspiracy theorist, you're tinfoil or that. I felt that exact same way along my research. There's no way. This is insane. And I keep digging and it keep going back to that and it keep going back to that. And then it dawned on me. It became an awareness. And once I was aware of that's not nuts, it's real. And how did that happen? Because I had found other events that were coming up. Like, I'll give you an example. The housing crisis and the last crash, what was that? 2008 or whatever, in that around that area. 2008, 2009, in around that area. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor in California, and they had the tent city, and we had so many companies across America that outsourced their jobs. This was part of the research, even though we're talking dating scene topics. See, the dating scene topics led me into the political arena. And I was thinking this is nuts. Well, that stuff that I'd read hadn't happened, so yes, you're a nut, right? But then when I became aware that no, and I started looking at society 2 years before the housing bubble and the homeless people, tent city, from our jobs being outsourced, I knew about this. And then it played out right in my face in our society. That was a big wake up call for me. That was like, holy shit, this stuff's really happening. And I knew about it 2 years before time. And I did videos on it. I was told I was a complete nut job. And then when it happened, the people that called me names just whoop, didn't have nothing to say, did they? And of course, that caused me to dig some more and some more of it. I've done so much of it. It came to a reality, of awareness. And I know where the problems in the manosphere came from. And this is why it is so critical for people to understand who our real enemy is. It's not each other. It's not women and it's not men. It's not each other. It was deliberately done. It wasn't a conspiracy theory. It wasn't a tinfoil wearing hat nut job. It was for real. And I just, and I see people and I've cared about people my whole life and I want what's right for all of us. This has never been about myself. This has been about all of us as a whole. And so, yeah, I get frustrated because of our behaviors, which comes from social engineering, because of our ability to lose care. We have to start caring about one another and about right and wrong. If we ever want to stop what's going on in society, only we can do it. We have sat back and we have, without knowing it, okay, and it's nobody's, I cannot blame anybody, and I will not blame anybody because you had no way of knowing, no more than I did. You were born, you were brought home from the hospital, and from the time you were real young, your parents was your influence, your television set, and your school system is where you got your knowledge, the information, okay, that was fed to you. This is where you got your knowledge. So, and you was lied to your whole life. So when you're lied to your whole life by everything around you, and your parents didn't intentionally lie to you, a lot of your school teachers never intentionally lied to you because this has gone on for so long that they were victims just like you're a victim, just like I'm a victim. Do you understand that? This is what I try to get through people's heads. This has gone on for this long. This was going on before I was born, and I'm 58 years old. So that should tell a lot of you people right away. If I'm 58 years old and this stuff was going on before I was born, what chance did you stand? Do you follow where I'm coming from here? You're not at fault. Nobody can point their finger at you and blame you. But your anger for not getting a woman in your life or being dumped on or treated the way you're being treated is justified. I stand by you when it comes to that anger. I totally understand it. But the point is in the manosphere, whether if you're men going your own way, whether if you're TFL, whether if you're incel, whether if you're love shy, I don't care what name you want to give it. The reality is we're all facing the same problems from everything I've just told you. And that is not her fault because she was programmed. Remember, that's why I held up the pen. Just like we were programmed, because it's all based on information that was fed to us. And the reason I said labels, categories, and labeling, because what did we do? We categorized, we separated, we programmed men one thing, programmed women another thing. What do you think? Okay, as you go back through the caveman days, you go through the hunting and grooming, the woman stayed at home, and when the boy got to be a certain age, the father took his boy out and he learned him how to hunt and to survive and taught him manly things while the girl was being taught female things. Now, do you see how I told you this goes so far back? And I'm not saying that's wrong, so don't get me wrong, okay? What I'm telling you, it was division, but it was done in baby steps till it got to a point when they gave you the feminist movement and they took the woman out of the home. It was never an accident. You want to know why women are so picky? What did we do? We placed women above ourselves as men. We fell into the gender roles thing. What else did we do? We put woman in. Remember, I told you sports was for division? We put woman in a cheerleader position and we picked out what we want to conceive is the best looking girls to be your cheerleaders. We gave you a fashion and modeling industry. And we floated these females on magazines and on commercials and everything around you. Okay? And believe me, the pornography fell into this. This was all different tools that's been used to destroy us. And that's what it's been used for, was to destroy our perceptions. Because we have no way of knowing anything other than what's been brought into our life and what we've been raised around. Unless we physically go look for ourselves and really take it seriously to investigate yourself. If it hadn't been for me investigating myself because I cared, I wouldn't know what I know today. And I find myself in a position where I used to think David Icke was nuts. Where I realized that David Icke is most likely part of the establishment, but he's not a higher up figure. He's not at the top of the pyramid. But I realized that David Icke has told one hell of a lot of truth. Alex Jones told a lot of truth and a whole lot of lies. Alex Jones and his whole family was CIA. Most people didn't realize that, okay? He never even owned his damn studio, man. Time Warner owned it. That's Warner Brothers. You know Hollywood, Warner Brothers? Yeah, this is how deep that goes. How do you think Alex Jones had professional documentary movies? Well, of course he did. Warner Brothers, Hollywood are the ones that own his studio. That's who he was working for. How do you think Alex Jones got them professional documentaries? Right in your face without you knowing it. That is a show. They censored Alex Jones to convince you, because what they're doing and the steps that they're using is they're slowly moving your thinking, your perception to the next level. You know, they do it in levels, steps, steps, steps. Here's something you might want to think about. What you're going to witness in the next few years, and take this to the bank. The feminist women that are out there now screaming about their rights are going to be at the bottom of the list, because it is not going to be because of men going their own way. No. It's going to be because of the lesbian, gay, and transsexual community. That is their next step. That has been engineered. It is like TFL. It's like the feminist movement. It was engineered. And they will take priority over the feminist, because the feminist movement agenda is at the end now. We're moving to the next step. This is why you see that father that's divorced from his pediatrician wife, who is turning his little boy into a girl, and the court systems is backing him up. Not him up, I mean backing her up, and giving him no rights to save his little boy from being put on hormone blockers and to be turned into a girl. This is also why you see the sex bots that MGTOW's pushing. Remember when I told you problem, reaction, solution? They have moved to the next step. And that next step has more than one part in it. It has AI. It has your Bluetooth. It has G5. That's right, military grade weapon. Okay, see, the next step has several things that's involved with it. At the end of that step, this is the end game. Because they're going to put AI devices on you. You're going to have this fancy Apple Watch that connects to the net. The toys are going to have talking Barbies that connect to the net for little kids. And why would we have that? Because it's the condition. Because it's the little children now. And David Icke was right about this. It is the little children now that will be the adults when this comes in. But when this comes in, they will be wanting to connect the human mind to artificial intelligence. And David Icke's right about that, telling you we're all going to be superhuman. But no, we won't. It's the exact opposite. That'll be the sales pitch to sell it. Like PUA was the sales pitch to help men that couldn't get nobody in their life. Now, for all you TFLers and incels out there, did PUA do you any good? No, that was the sales pitch. And this is what we got going on, so you've got to really back up and pay attention. What you're going to watch is the lesbian, gay, and transsexual community is going to trump the feminist movement. The feminist women will lose their butt to them because that will be the priority. We've already set it in stage. Don't hurt somebody's feelers. They can be any gender they want to say they are. Think about it. Put two and two together. Move outside of the dating scene long enough to understand what's going on around you. And we cannot stop these people unless we stand together. Okay? And I want to bring the manosphere together because we have millions and millions of men all over the world that are suffering from this. Women are also victims, but they're victims on a different level. That's what you have to understand. Men are the primary victims. Women are the secondary victims. They want you to believe that women are primary, the main victim, and a man's not a victim at all, which is complete hogwash. They censor us because they only want one narrative reported. That's their narrative. They don't want you actually knowing the real truth. And it's up to you to go look for that truth. I'm telling you what I know and what I'm seeing from my own research. And the David Icke isn't the nut job that people have been calling him. Even my own research and awareness and watching around me, I know that David Icke has told you a whole lot of truth. Alex Jones told you a lot of truth too, but Alex Jones is right now being used as a show. Why did they censor Alex Jones? Because they wanted to remove Alex somewhat from the position he was in. And they're doing the same thing with everybody. You know, they even David Icke was banned. What, he is banned from Sweden? Something like that. He's not allowed to go there. Okay. He got his visa canceled and banned because of what he's speaking about. And no, that's no lie. That really happened. Okay. Because the narrative is like this. The people at the top of the pyramid are controlling our governments. They want one thing fed to all of us. And they don't want they don't want your freedom of speech. They don't want you challenging their narrative. This is what censorship is about. It's about shutting you up so that you cannot go against what they want. And it's about conditioning you to go along with. The sex bots was part of the agenda all along. It's conditioning. And you know, when I did that live stream and I said how ridiculously nuts people becoming to think that this robot, the sex bot's going to have an artificial womb and it's going to give them their own baby. And they're going to replace women with these sex bots. And I'm like, and the only thing it does is just make me look even more and look even more and look even more. And I've been doing some looking again, as I always do. And there it is, man. Falls right into the agenda. We have now moved to the next level. That's exactly what's happened. We're moving to the next step. But this next step, because these steps, when they move to a step, normally last for several years. Then this next step with the AI and the sex bots and the Bluetooth will be the end game. Because it's the children that are around us now that will be adults when it comes in. So there's your time frame. This gives you a time frame for when this stuff's going to start coming in. When this stuff starts coming in, it's going to progressively, within 20 years from that time, you'll pretty much see people's brains hooked up to AI. Give it another 20 years after that, and human consciousness will be gone. They will literally be turning newborn people into robots. Because those at the top who control AI through the computer, through the internet, will be controlling your thoughts and controlling you. I really don't want to be around for that, and I probably won't be around for that. But I know a lot of people are here on this earth right now that will be around. Don't let them give you a sales pitch that AI hooked to your brain is going to make you a superhuman so smart. That is a complete, utter lie. That is a sales pitch that will take your life and destroy you. Just like the cashless society, and you think this has nothing to do with the dating arena? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. They divided the genders the way they did to help population reduction. The Georgia Guidestones didn't accidentally pop up. And what was wrote on them, in I think it was 4 different tongues, was the same thing in each tongue, was no accident. It was the people at the top of the pyramid telling you what they wanted and what they're after. The FEMA camps, the FEMA coffins, Planet X is fear porn. They don't need that for population reduction. They're getting it right now, and they've been getting it. They have divided the genders to a point where there's not as many births happening no more, is there? No, there isn't. And people are dying every day, and less births are happening than deaths are happening right under your nose. But I wanted to come up here and say a little bit about this stuff because I think people need to understand this. I have an important reason for wanting to bring the manosphere together because it needs to happen. Why are we calling each other? Why are we putting each other in labels and categories? Because we're going with what's been fed to us in the norm thing. And we've got to get ourselves above that. We really do. Because the only way we're ever going to change anything, and don't say it can't be changed, that's programming yourself into believing you can't change something. We can change, but we can only change in numbers. And if we can't stop our infighting, we could never join in numbers. Divide and conquer has always been their model because their biggest fear is the people realizing what's really going on, standing together, and rising up against them. They know that if the people of this planet rise up against them, that they lose. They don't want that to happen, so they do everything to prevent it from happening. And we have to become smart enough to realize and start educating ourselves. So I can only tell you this: educate yourself. Look into the stuff I'm telling you. Remember the stuff I've said and watch with your own eyes if that's what it takes. But some of it you can see around you right now. We got MGTOWers calling for sex bots and dolls to replace the female gender with because of her toxic behavior. Because of her toxic behavior, men, women, social engineering. That's why you see men going their own way was the actual solution to causing a big awakening for the women. But it could have only happened if men going their own way took it for real and walked away from the female gender. Otherwise, other than that, there's no way it could happen. Because once the female couldn't get a male in her life and was pushed into TFL themselves like they pushed men into TFL through programming, once the script was flipped, women would have been forced with no choice but to back up and think. And of course, we got all these simps, which you want to call manginas that I call nudginas. We got all these weak-minded men and simps that does us no good at all. You got to stop placing women above yourself. And you got to call out people like Karen Stroud of men's rights, and of the MRA movement. A men's right activist movement that was hijacked by women. Give me a break. Ask her what she's done in all these years to give for men. Her answer will be nothing because she's accomplished zero. Because she wasn't supposed to accomplish anything. What she has accomplished though is putting a lot of money in her pocket, and that's the reason she's doing it. Just ask her a simple question. Why she hasn't rallied with thousands of people in front of Hollywood studios picketing the male bashing. That's all you got to say. Why she hasn't made a big cry out of Hollywood's male bashing and media's male bashing of men. Our society smashing men. Well, I know why she hasn't. She knows why she hasn't. Because she's not allowed to. She has to follow her boss's orders. The establishment. Because it was no accident. It was problem, reaction, solution. But with that being said, you can go back to the beginning of the live stream. Listen to what I was talking about when I talked about TFL, because I told you how this all came in. The feminist movement, the modeling industry, the fashion industry. How they got us where they got us right now. And how come there's so many men alone? I basically told you in this video, or in this live stream now. If you paid attention to anything I've said, you heard it. That's how they got us where they got us. Okay, and that's why to me it's so crucial that people start understanding the root cause to the problems in the manosphere so that they can understand who the real enemy is. So that we stop fighting one another. Because that's the only way we're ever going to get anywhere. Is to stop that division. As long as we stay divided and stay doing what we're doing, we're going to lose. I hope you understand that. We cannot win. we will all lose. We can only win when we stop fighting one another. Right now, I see so many people in the manosphere pointing their fingers at other men that are victims just like we all are. And we got to stop that mentality of the blame game. You have a right to be angry, but our anger needs to be directed at our real enemies, the people who've done it to us. Okay, the sex bots and that stuff needs to go away. We don't need artificial intelligence sex bots. These MGTOWers who are pushing the sex bot are only going along with the agenda that's been slowly baby stepped, engineered, put there for them to go along with. And the people at the top love it. Because when they go along with their agenda, they got you right where they want you. Well, now that's not too bad for off the grid. If you can form a group, LHM, The Last Honest Man, well, honesty's important, I'm telling you. And but it's very important, but it's very important to understand who your enemy is. And most of the manosphere has no idea who their enemy is. And so much, in the MGTOWer community, we have good MGTOWers, and we have other MGTOWers that are moving down the elite's agenda. And they're going right along with mainstream narrative and the elite's agenda and don't even know they are. My goal is to bring the manosphere together, and then we need to start taking things seriously if we're ever going to get the women's brains out of there. You know what? But don't worry, it's not just women, it's also men. This is not a one-sided issue. You need to know what they've done to us all. And this is really where it comes from. You need to know the truth, who our real enemy is and where it come from. Because then we can at least stop pointing the fingers at each other. We have millions of men globally that are living TFL or incel. No lie. Incellers and involuntary celibacy men, okay, are nothing really more than a TFLer. A lot of MGTOWs are actually TFLers. The people that I would call the true MGTOWers would be the people that were in a relationship and got burned by the court system, by no-fault divorce, by the powers to be. I tell TFLers to go MGTOW because it beats keeping playing a game and being rejected all the time. MGTOW was the answer to waking the women up, but it ain't going to happen short of the men walking away from the women. If the men can't take it seriously and walk away from the women, then they've lost and the women won. They're not changing a thing. And it's not that I'm against MGTOW, it's just the facts are the facts. When you understand what's really going on in society, then you know why they attacked the MGTOW. You know why MGTOW went mainstream. It went mainstream because they needed to destroy it. Because it was a threat against all of their work in the manosphere that they've done between men and women. It was literally a direct threat. That's the reason they've done what they've done. That's the only reason MGTOW went mainstream. It wasn't because there's more and more men walking away from women. All you got to do is listen to MGTOWers like Mike the Migto Monk are when in doubt, and you'll realize that these guys are deluded. They haven't done their homework. They don't really understand what's going on in society, and they're going right along with the agenda of the people at the top of the pyramid and don't even know they are. And that will be endgame. But anyhow, with that being said, guys, I'm getting out of here. Until then, you all have a good one.